Beauty and the Beast. The first moment. Once upon a time, in a kingdom where magic still lingered in the shadows of ancient forests, there lived a handsome but arrogant young prince. His castle was the most magnificent in all the land, with towers that seemed to touch the clouds and gardens that bloomed with flowers from every corner of the world. The prince had everything he could ever want: wealth, power, and beauty that made him the envy of all who saw him. But his outward beauty concealed a heart as cold as winter stone. The prince was selfish, cruel, and vain, caring nothing for the suffering of others. He turned away beggars from his door, mocked those less fortunate, and believed that his handsome face gave him the right to treat others with contempt. One bitter winter evening, as snow fell like tears from the darkened sky, an old beggar woman came to the castle seeking shelter. She was bent with age, her clothes were nothing but tattered rags, and in her gnarled hand she carried a single red rose that somehow bloomed despite the freezing cold. "Please, Your Highness," she pleaded, her voice trembling with cold and exhaustion. "I have traveled far and have nowhere to go. Grant me shelter for just one night, and I will give you this rose in return." The prince looked at her with disgust, his handsome face twisted with scorn. "Get away from me, you hideous old hag," he sneered. "Do you think I would allow someone like you to set foot in my palace? Take your worthless flower and leave my sight." But the old woman did not leave. Instead, she straightened up, and her eyes began to glow with an otherworldly light. "Your Highness," she said, her voice now strong and clear, "appearances can be deceiving. I offered you a gift and asked only for kindness in return. You have shown me the true nature of your heart." As she spoke, her ragged form began to shimmer and transform. The bent old woman became a beautiful enchantress, her hair flowing like starlight and her gown shimmering with magic. The prince stepped back in terror, but it was too late. "You are beautiful on the outside," the enchantress declared, her voice echoing through the great hall, "but your heart is ugly and cruel. Since you judge others by their appearance, you too shall be judged. You will become as hideous on the outside as you are within." She raised the rose high above her head, and its petals began to glow with mystical fire. "This rose will bloom until your 21st birthday. If you can find someone to love you, and whom you can love in return, before the last petal falls, the curse will be broken. But if not, you will remain a beast forever." The prince tried to beg for mercy, but the transformation had already begun. His handsome features twisted and changed, his body grew massive and covered with coarse fur, and his hands became claws. When he looked in the mirror, a hideous beast stared back at him, part man, part wolf, part bear, with fangs and horns that made him a creature of nightmares. The enchantress vanished, leaving behind only the enchanted rose and a curse that would change everything. The prince's servants were transformed as well, into household objects that could still think and feel but could no longer live as humans. The castle itself became dark and forbidding, hidden from the world by the enchantress's magic. The middle journey. Years passed, and the beast lived in solitude, watching helplessly as the rose petals fell one by one. He had learned to read and spent his days in the vast library, trying to understand the kindness and love that had always been foreign to him. But his monstrous appearance ensured that no one would ever come close enough to see the change in his heart. Meanwhile, in a nearby village, there lived a merchant who had once been wealthy but had lost his fortune through a series of misfortunes. He lived in a small cottage with his 3 daughters. The 2 eldest, Giselle and Anastasia, were beautiful but vain and selfish, always complaining about their reduced circumstances and dreaming of marrying rich men to restore their former luxury. But the youngest daughter was different. Her name was Belle, and she was the most beautiful of the 3, with chestnut hair that caught the light like autumn leaves and eyes that sparkled with intelligence and kindness. Unlike her sisters, Belle found joy in simple pleasures, reading books, helping her neighbors, and caring for her father. The villagers called her Beauty, because her inner goodness made her outer beauty shine even brighter. One day, the merchant received word that one of his ships had returned to port, possibly restoring his fortune. Before leaving on the long journey, he asked his daughters what gifts they would like him to bring back. Giselle wanted jewels, Anastasia wanted silk gowns, but Belle simply said, "All I want is for you to return safely, Papa." But if you must bring me something, I would love a single red rose. The merchant's journey was unsuccessful. The ship's cargo had been lost at sea. On his way home, he became lost in a terrible storm and sought shelter in what appeared to be an abandoned castle. To his amazement, he found the castle warm and welcoming, with a fire burning in the hearth and a feast laid out on the table, though he saw no servants. The next morning, as he prepared to leave, he remembered Belle's request. In the castle garden, he found a bush covered with the most beautiful red roses he had ever seen. As he picked one for Belle, a terrifying roar shook the very foundations of the castle. The beast appeared, his eyes blazing with fury. "How dare you steal from me?" he roared. "I gave you shelter and food, and you repay me by taking my roses." The merchant fell to his knees, trembling with fear. "Forgive me, my lord. I meant no harm. The rose was for my daughter, she asked for nothing else." "You have a daughter?" the beast asked, his voice softening slightly. "You will return to her, but in 3 days, you must come back to take your punishment. Unless..." He paused, considering. "Unless she comes in your place." The merchant returned home heartbroken, but Belle immediately insisted on going to the castle. "This is my fault, Papa," she said bravely. "If I hadn't asked for the rose, none of this would have happened." Despite her family's protests, Belle rode to the castle and offered herself in exchange for her father's life. The beast, moved by her courage and sacrifice, agreed to let her father go free while she remained as his prisoner. At first, Belle was terrified of the beast's frightening appearance, but as days passed, she began to see beyond his monstrous exterior. The beast gave her free run of the castle, including access to the magnificent library. He dined with her each evening, and their conversations revealed his intelligence, his loneliness, and his deep regret for his past cruelty. The enchanted objects, Mrs. Potts the teapot, Chip her son who had become a teacup, Lumiere the candlestick, and Cogsworth the clock, all grew to love Belle and hoped she might be the one to break the curse. Every night, the beast would ask Belle the same question: "Belle, will you marry me?" And every night, she would gently refuse, saying she could not marry someone she did not love. But Belle's feelings were changing. She began to see the gentle soul hidden beneath the beast's frightening exterior. When she asked to visit her sick father, the beast let her go, giving her a magic mirror so she could see him whenever she wished and promising she could return whenever she chose. At home, Belle found her father ill with worry and grief. Her sisters, jealous of the stories she told about the castle's wonders, convinced her to stay longer than the week she had promised. But in the magic mirror, Belle saw that the beast was dying of heartbreak, believing she would never return. The last moment. Belle raced back to the castle through the dark night, her heart pounding with fear and a newfound understanding of her own feelings. She found the beast collapsed in the garden beside the rose bush, the enchanted rose now down to its final petals. His breathing was shallow, and his eyes were closed as if he had given up hope. "Beast," she cried, falling to her knees beside him and gathering his massive head in her arms. "Please don't leave me. I came back, I'm here." The beast's eyes fluttered open, and he looked at her with love and wonder. "Belle," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You came back." "Of course I came back," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I couldn't let you die thinking I didn't care. I've been so foolish. I thought I knew what love was, but I was wrong." "It's too late," the beast said sadly, his breath growing weaker. The rose, the last petal. Belle looked at the enchanted rose and saw that indeed, the final petal was beginning to fall. But she didn't care about magic or curses anymore. She only cared about the gentle soul who had shown her what true love really meant. "No, it's not too late," she said firmly, holding him closer. "Because I love you. I love you, beast. Not for what you might become, but for who you are right now." As the words left her lips, the final petal fell from the rose. For a moment, everything was silent, as if the whole world was holding its breath. Then, a brilliant golden light began to emanate from the beast's body, growing brighter and brighter until Belle had to shield her eyes. When the light faded, Belle found herself holding not a beast, but a handsome young man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He was even more beautiful than he had been before his transformation, for now his outer beauty reflected the goodness that had grown in his heart. "Belle," he said, his voice filled with wonder, "is it really you? You said you loved me." "I do love you," she replied, touching his face in amazement. "But who are you? What happened to my beast?" He laughed, a sound like music after years of silence. "I am your beast, my darling. I am Prince Adam, and your love has broken the curse. The enchantress said only true love could save me, but I never believed anyone could love someone as monstrous as I had become." "You were never a monster," Belle said softly. "You were the kindest, most gentle soul I had ever known. Your appearance frightened me at first, but your heart was always beautiful." Around them, the castle began to transform. The dark stone walls became white and gleaming, gardens bloomed with flowers in every color, and the enchanted objects returned to their human forms. Mrs. Potts became a kindly housekeeper, Chip her young son, Lumiere a debonair butler, and Cogsworth a distinguished head of staff. Prince Adam took Belle's hands in his. "Belle, you gave me the greatest gift anyone could give. You taught me how to love and showed me that I was worthy of love in return. Will you marry me now? Not because of a curse or magic, but because you choose to." Belle's heart overflowed with joy. "Yes," she said, "yes, I will marry you. Because I love you, Adam. I love the man you've become, and I love the man you always had the potential to be." Their wedding was the most magnificent celebration the kingdom had ever seen. The entire village came to the castle, and Belle's father wept with joy as he walked his daughter down the aisle. Even Belle's sisters, humbled by witnessing true love, asked for forgiveness and found it freely given. As Belle and Adam danced their first dance as husband and wife, the enchanted rose, now blooming eternally as a symbol of their love, glowed softly in the background. The curse was broken forever, but more importantly, two hearts had found their perfect match. They ruled their kingdom with wisdom and compassion, never forgetting the lessons they had learned about looking beyond appearances and the transformative power of love. The castle became a place of welcome for all, where no one was ever turned away because of how they looked or what they owned. In the evenings, Belle and Adam would sit in the library, reading together by the firelight. Sometimes Adam would ask, "Do you ever miss the beast?" And Belle would smile and reply, "He's still here, in your gentle heart and your capacity for love. The beast taught me that true beauty comes from within, and the prince shows me that love can transform us all." And so they lived happily ever after, their love story becoming a legend that reminded everyone that true love sees beyond the surface, that kindness can break any curse, and that the most beautiful transformations happen not with magic, but with the genuine love that grows between two hearts. The end. And so concludes the tale of Beauty and the Beast, a story that teaches us that love is not about appearances, but about the beauty of the soul. In their kingdom, everyone was valued for their character rather than their looks, and true love was celebrated as the most powerful magic of all.